And welcome back to another edition of the On the Board Sports Podcast. I am your host, Will Chiarucci, a.k.a. We'll See, coming to you from Long Island, New York, in my basement. Hey, we got to make the best of it. It's quarantine situation right now. It's, being home, being safe, that's the main thing right now. But shout out to all the essential workers out there doing their thing. Just want to give a shout out here and bring in my lovely co-host, Shawn Thomas, a.k.a. Shawnee on the mic. Shawn, how are you?
Well, I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right, man. Can't complain, TGIF, but we have a very, very special guest with us. Joining us from Long Island, New York is the voice, the TV voice of the New York Islanders and NBC Sports Network. We are talking with the one and only Brendan Burke. Brendan, how are you, bud?
I'm hanging in there, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. And, you're a busy man running around the house and taking care of things right now, especially since the NHL season is suspended right now. How are you making out during this time?
I'm just like everybody else, kind of in a holding pattern, and leave the house about once a week to go to a grocery store, and that's about it. And just, for me, I'm trying to look at it as a positive. I've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I have never in their entire lives spent this much time with them because I have a job that requires me to travel, and even people that don't have jobs that have to travel, you just have to go to work. And so rarely do you get, I'm going on almost 6 weeks of me and the 2 kids and my wife for most of it, just here at home. So I've enjoyed the time with them. I would obviously much rather go out and have a normal type of life, and would much rather be doing playoff games right about now than what we're doing. But I'm trying to make the best of the family time that I've got, because I don't see how I'll ever get it again. And they're only little ones, so I'm trying to enjoy it.
That's it. That's the only way how you could make out during this whole time right now. Brendan, I know that, how's the wife handling all this right now in this situation?
Well, she's a nurse. So, for the first few weeks, she was working a lot. And, she doesn't work necessarily in an emergency room or, an ICU where most of the frontline workers are dealing with this, but she does work in oncology. And so, cancer doesn't stop. People still need treatments during all this. And, cancer patients are immunosuppressed, and you have to be very careful with them. So, for the first few weeks of this, that she was actually, going out and going to work and going into the hospital and, taking all the precautions like you hear about, and, changing her clothes in the garage before she came back in the house and going through all of that. And now, she's actually in a situation where she's not working anymore, and she's, her job basically is to stay healthy for if any of her coworkers get sick, that she can, jump right in and kind of keep on going, because, you're at that point where, again, just because doctors and nurses get sick doesn't mean people don't need help. So her job is to stay home with us and stay healthy. And so we're doing our best to keep her that way.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Hopefully everything just continues to go well. Brendan, so everything is at a pause. Everything is at a still. Every sport is trying to figure out if we come back, and if they are, when. In terms of the NHL, do you think there is a realistic time frame or like a realistic date where you think they can come back and salvage what's left? Or do you think they should just say, hey, look, this is much bigger than the game. Let's just start fresh for the 2020-21 year?
Yeah, this is something that's changing by the day. So any sort of, and I think you've heard the last few days of plans have emerged about a July start date, and here are the 4 cities that they're targeting. And you know what? I think that is a great plan, but it's a plan that is very, very tentative, and it's a plan that no one really knows if or not it could come true. And I think that every league, if you were to get inside of the war rooms there, they all have hey, if we get the go ahead on, May 15th, this is our plan. If we get to go ahead on May 30th, this is the plan. June 15th, I would imagine that every league has a scenario for every possible date at this point about what they want to accomplish. Whether or not those are realistic, whether or not it can actually happen, that's for people much smarter than me to figure out. And, who knows when it will be. And if they come up with a July 1st date on June 30th, that could change. So we're in this type of situation now where no one really knows what's going to happen. To me, looking at it, I really find it hard to believe that we're going to get back and finish the season. It just doesn't seem to make sense for the time frame that people are talking about. They're already questioning whether or not schools are going to be back in September. We're talking about college football and the NFL having a problem. If they're talking about those things in the fall, how on earth is this season going to have a conclusion? But again, I don't know. You got to remember too, you're talking probably closer to a month. I think Gary Bettman said 3 weeks, but you're talking probably closer to a month if all things go well between the time they get okay, you can start till the time they actually play a game. Right. So if they get a June 1st okay, which is not that far away from now, you're not talking about playing games till July. And if you get it in July, you're not playing until August. And you've got all of these players who are scattered all over the earth, in Europe and in Russia and all these places. They all have to come back. They all have to play. Players' contracts expire on July 1st. How does that work going forward in the middle of a season? There's so many different things to figure out that it's just going to be a lot to try and finish the season. But I guess we can remain hopeful.
Right.
Everything's got to be hopeful at this point in time, Brendan. You also cover lacrosse. How does this affect the lacrosse world?
Yeah, I mean, they have officially suspended the beginning part of the season. They're not going to start on time, which was supposed to be the last week of May, and that's pretty much all we know. So they're kind of in a holding pattern like everybody else. I think that, for lacrosse and for the Premier Lacrosse League specifically, they may be set up better than any professional sport to start in a hurry. Just because of the nature of their league is that these players all live separately and all practice and train separately during the week. And then they go to a city on Friday, play a game on Saturday and a game on Sunday, and then they leave. So you're talking about a team or a league that has players that are used to not training together, not practicing together, kind of being in isolation, where if you told this league, hey, you guys have games on Friday, they could probably do it. Realistically, maybe not logistically, but at least for the physical health of the players and the ability to play, they do Zoom meetings all season long with their teammates and their teams because they're not physically together and they all live all over the country. So I don't know what it will look like. I think that if they wanted to try and play a season in a shorter time frame than one game a week, they could, because that's, it would obviously just be a little different. But again, if they're able to squeeze in part of a season or able to squeeze the whole season into a different time frame, that would be great. But right now, I don't think anybody has any idea what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. Brendan, before the season paused, the Islanders, they weren't playing particularly well. They were losing a lot of games close, 3-2 and 2-1, so on and so forth. Obviously, you being there, according to the games, can you talk about the struggles they had on the ice up until the season went on the pause?
I don't remember it. Do you guys? I mean, really? You know what? I remember the last game that they played was in Vancouver, and it was a hell of a hockey game. And I remember saying to Butch that it was unfortunate that game was on. It didn't finish up to probably close to 1 a.m. East Coast time because people needed to see that game. It was a lot of fun. They lost, but it was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of resilience to it. And I think that they were, and Barry Trotz had talked about it, that they were on their way out of what their problems were being. They were starting to get over the hump, and they weren't necessarily winning games, but they were starting to play better. And in his estimation, that's obviously more important sometimes than winning, is laying that foundation to play well. And if it timed out, you were talking about having your team getting out of that and hopefully going on a run at a good time, because you had, 3 weeks left in the season at that point. So, they were still in the middle of a very tough and long road trip where we had gone to Vancouver to start what was supposed to be a week-long trip, and it made it to Calgary. And then the day of the game in Calgary, boom, we were on our way back home, and we were supposed to, hit. It was Calgary, and then it was going to be Edmonton, and then we had to play in Pittsburgh on the way home from that trip. So that was still a very tough road trip that they needed to win probably the last 3 or at least 2 of those games, and especially the game against Pittsburgh within the Metropolitan Division. But, I think at this point, everything is reset. You've got every team resetting. If they are to finish this season, you've got guys that weren't healthy that are going to be healthy. Cal Clutterbuck should be a little further removed from his injury. Johnny Boychuk should be back. You've got all these guys. But then again, that holds true for every team in the National Hockey League. They have guys that we thought were done for the season where all of a sudden, boom, you've got, let's just say July rolls around. We always talked about Adam Pelech being done for the season no matter what happened, because his return date was going to be after the Stanley Cup final. if they're playing in July and August, does Adam Pelech come back in time? I mean, it's just, there's so many different things right now that it's hard to even guess as to what the NHL looks like moving forward. And so it's almost counterproductive to talk about what already happened, because you're really just starting another season or even just starting the playoffs when that happens, whenever it does happen.
Absolutely. His dude being hurt for getting the skate in the knee was just absolutely unbelievable back in February, and maybe he comes back during this point in time. Brendan, let's say if the season doesn't start again, right, and April 30th is coming, we know that the white whale, Ilya Sorokin, is coming to, it looks like he's coming here to New York. What's your thoughts on the Russian prospect coming over and probably playing with the Islanders for a year?
In theory, great. It's hard without a guy who, we've never actually seen play before, and at least play at the National Hockey League level, to kind of put your eggs all in one basket. I think that, the KHL is a very different league. He obviously has proven himself as a very good goaltender in that league. But this is a different animal. And can he walk into the National Hockey League and be an impact player? Does he need to do kind of what his buddy Igor Shesterkin did with the Rangers and spend half a season in Bridgeport, half a season in the American Hockey League to get ready? What does it look like? Obviously the goaltending for the New York Islanders has been, I guess, I don't want to call it a problem, but certainly a question mark for longer than it should be. I think you've always had this: is Jaro Halak the guy? Is Robin Leonard the guy? Is Thomas Greiss the guy? You just keep rolling through. Was Evgeny Nabokov the guy? And you have all these franchises that have had such sustained success, and you look at it, a lot of it has to do with goaltending. I mean, you look at Corey Crawford in Chicago, you look at Jonathan Quick in Los Angeles, you look at Henrik Lundqvist with the Rangers, you look at those guys that have been there for long periods of time, Marc-Andre Fleury with the Penguins that turned into Matt Murray. But you look at teams that have had success, made the playoffs for 10, 11, 12 years in a row, they all have the same thing in common, and that is a stable, number one, clear-cut, defined goaltender. And so I think that's what the Islanders have been searching for a long time. And if this is the guy, then great. I think the team will be better for it. But who's to say for a guy who's never played a game in the NHL how good he's going to be?
Absolutely. Well, Brendan, what's the one thing you miss most about being out, covering all the games, everything like that? Just, I know it's tough. It's been a month without sports, but what's the one thing that you miss most?
I mean, it's everything. Like it's my whole life. I mean, I don't go, if you think about it, like I don't go 3 days in a row without calling a hockey game. And then I roll hockey right into, I roll Islanders hockey right into NBC playoffs, which pretty much rolls right into cross season, which rolls right back around into hockey. Like this is what I do. And I love what I do. And I'm fortunate to be able to say that. But at the same time, I've got nothing to do. At the same time, I've lost everything in terms of, my normal routine. What is my normal? So I'm just looking forward to, even when I'm home, I'm usually in this office preparing for a broadcast, and my mind is continuing to work. There's always a game to watch or a story to read. And right now, that side of my brain doesn't even have anything to do. So I miss I guess the pursuit of knowledge. I miss the studying. I miss, everything. And I miss, the travel. And of course I miss just watching hockey. It's the best sport in the world. And I spend a lot of time doing it. I mean, a lot of time doing it. So I'm just looking forward to that day where we can do it again.
Absolutely. And, Brendan, you do a wonderful job with MSG Networks and with NBC Sports Network as well. And even it's a joy having to listen to you with Butchie on the broadcast. So it's really great. Do you miss Butchie too in this whole situation?
Yeah, of course. I text him every once in a while and see how he's doing. And he's at home with the dogs and his wife. And, I'll text him every once in a while. We're keeping in touch.
Absolutely. The toy department, baby. That's it. Toy department. Awesome, baby. Brendan, how do people follow you on social media?
Brendan M. Burke. M is for Matthew. That's my middle name. Apparently, Brendan Burke is too popular of a name for me to get that. So that's Twitter and that's Instagram, and that's where you can find me.
Awesome, Brendan. Thank you so much for sacrificing some time.
Thank you, Brendan. Appreciate it.
Keep staying healthy, and same thing with the missus over there. Doing her thing, being essential. So.
And the kids, and everybody, Brendan.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. Stay safe, everybody.
You too. Thank you. As the one and only Brendan Burke of MSG Networks and of NBC Sports Network. Shawn, great conversation having him on for a little bit. Any final thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, Will, it's always interesting hearing a commentator standpoint, Will, and it's like it's like he said, this is his livelihood. He doesn't go, 3-4 days without calling any sort of game because he goes from hockey to lacrosse. Don't forget, Will, he also, I don't know if he still does or he did, um, the football games too, college games.
Right.
So I mean, like he just continues to call games and call games and call games, and Will, to be at a still, Will, I think we have to understand some people have never experienced or have never had to be still in their professional life.
Right.
So what may be normal to us or what may be normal to an introvert is not normal to someone who is not still in their professional life. So I hope that he continues to do good, his wife and the kids, Butchie and everybody else,
Yeah,
and they
Shannon Hogan
continue
too.
to do well.
Shannon Hogan too. Can't forget
Shannon
about
Hogan as well. Right. Exactly. So awesome job by Brendan, and of course, awesome job by you, my friend.
what more can I say, man? Just thank you. Thank you for the listener and thank you, Shawn, for, just being who you are, So I just wanted to just mention that there.
Sure.
You know, for everybody here at On the Board Sports, thank you and quick shout out again to Brendan and Burke for coming on. Just he's running around like crazy over there, but hey, this is the new normal now at this point in time. We got to make the best out of a bad situation here. And just wanted to give thanks to my wonderful co-host, Shawn Thomas, a.k.a. Shawnee on the mic. Just wanted to say thank you, bud. I am your host, Will Chiarucci, logging out, a.k.a. We'll see. We will talk to you guys soon. Peace out. Stay safe out there. And, just be healthy. Peace out.